Hello, everyone. My name is Danny, and in case you are new, I am a ex-Jehovah's Witness. Though, unlike, I think, most ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, I cannot say I was baptized. I was not. But I was born and raised in a very devoutly Jehovah's Witness household. We are going to review another video from Lloyd Evans. It's going to be Emotionally Painful Discipline to be Valued by Jehovah's Witnesses.
Hebrews 12:5-6 says, "And you have entirely forgotten the exhortation that addresses you as sons. My son, do not belittle the discipline from Jehovah, nor give up when you are corrected by him. For those whom Jehovah loves, he disciplines. In fact, he scourges or he punishes everyone he receives as a son." Yes, this is what takes place. We're warned in this scripture not to do two different things. First of all, we don't want to belittle the discipline as if it didn't have much value or if it didn't apply to us. If we were to do that, we could be turning away from a really nice suggestion and helpful advice from our God, Jehovah. And also, as stated, we don't want to give up when we're corrected, as if too much is expected out of us. It's just too much. Jehovah expects too much, can't do it, not going to do it. That's not the right attitude to display. Now, we do know that discipline is emotionally painful at times. However, if we focused only on the pain, then we would miss the point completely. See, Satan wants us to focus on the pain. Satan wants us to take it personal. Satan loves to see those wedges driven between the brothers. He loves to see people leave Jehovah and the congregation. It's his entertainment.
Don't take it personally, but I'm about to abuse the fucking hell out of you and your mind. Have fun with that. I'm gonna abuse you, abandon you, and cast you out to the wolves. Because I care about you and we love you so much. Don't focus on the pain or the abuse that we're committing against you for not following the doctrine, the dictates of the religion, of our apparently all-loving and knowing and understanding God that we are made in the image of. We are his children, his flesh and blood. Don't focus on the pain and the abuse that's imposed upon you. That's satanic. Don't do that. Focus on the apparent good that exists within it. The good that proves that we only do it out of pure love and compassion, understanding and care about you. Because if you don't think about it, it makes perfect sense. And remember, don't think, just do.
What's being referred to here is discipline that the organization dishes out to its members, whether it's in the form of reduced privileges or the form that many of us are familiar with, shunning. Apparently, those who Jehovah loves, he scourges. Like any completely healthy, non-toxic father.
Absolutely.
That's what Jehovah does to those he loves. He tortures them. But seriously, on a serious note, I can remember being given this sort of nonsense when I was being bent over my father's knee and lashed with a belt back in the days when Jehovah's Witnesses very solidly pushed corporal punishment. They've kind of backed off corporal punishment a little bit in recent years, or they don't encourage members to do it in quite the fervour or with quite the fervour that they used to. But I was routinely told, "Oh, I'm doing this because I love you. It hurts me to do this, Lloyd."
Remember the phrase, it hurts me more than it hurts you. Yeah, clearly. That's why you were so impassioned about doing it every single time. You're all gung-ho the moment that you had the opportunity to break a fucking spoon over somebody's ass. You're like, yup, go-to time. Let's get amplified. Let's fucking do it enthusiastically, ecclesiastically. Because God would want this, apparently. Because it's apparent compassion and understanding. I said as I beat the random elder I found on the sidewalk within an inch of her life.
I've got to discipline you because I love you. And again, what a toxic, narcissistic, psychopathic thing to say to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
I don't agree, I'm afraid. I think when you love someone, you don't torture them. And particularly in the context of shunning as a form of discipline, we are talking about a form of punishment that traumatizes people.
The thing that bugged me the most, and I'm sure you saw my reaction like off the bat, but especially within that first 45 seconds or so of it, is how, again, robotic they are. How much of like a clone they are to each other in the way that they always do their speaking. All of their talks, all of their speeches, all of their anytime they're teaching and they're guiding and they're talking to you, they're talking to you in an exact manner. It's very exacting. It's everybody is robotically cloned to each other. They all speak to you in only one specific way, and they'll never speak to you in any other way for God knows what reason. But it's literally like a cookie cutter, you know, like literally exactly how not just all the houses were in every building in existence in the landscape of the Truman Show, right? In the town, the fictional town that existed there, but like how everybody treated each other and spoke to each other. And I've addressed this before. It's a very thematic thing where like it's inevitable. Everyone talks the same. Everyone walks and moves and acts and reacts the same. Everybody thinks the same. It's just super hive-mindy Borg-like stuff, you know, again, Star Trek Borg. There's a reason why that's such a consistent theme in terms of XJW circles where people make that comparison, because it's basically like we are Jehovah's Witnesses, or in this case, we are Borg. We will assimilate. It's just like, okay, fantastic. But it's also very corporate because, again, if you think about like all these big corporate things, especially when it comes down to media, what is it that they do? They all speak the same way. Every announcer, every sports media person in existence talks in a very exacting way. It's very specific. So like an announcer at an NBA game or an NFL game or literally any game or major sport you can think of speaks in an exact way. They're all clones to each other. They don't speak in any other way. And it's been this way for longer than I've been even a conception. It's weird how robotic everything gets when it's media and it's corporatized. And cults require the same they require repetition because again that's part of how they manipulate you. Again, I highly recommend you check out my video on not two videos really. One that's on how they keep you in, Jehovah's Witnesses, so basically how they get you in and how they keep you in. And then of course just general abuse, which is literally universal across the board. You can literally do it just to identify abuse. If you're being abused, if somebody you know or love is being abused or whatever else, or manipulated, and being able to spot it out there in the world, but also with groups and therefore with Jehovah's Witnesses. It's like a perfect combination thing. So both of those are really good for that. And I mention it in both of those. And I think I mentioned it probably in just about, if not every single Jehovah's Witness video I've done so far, because it's such a theme. It's an inevitability. Everything is copy pasted. Think about like everyone's favorite Billy Mays. How does everyone else speak in that very corporate, all out for profit kind of, you know, as seen on TV ads? They all sound the same. Think about your favorite voice actors and narrators for movie and TV shows and series ads. They've always sounded the same. They've always spoken the same, had the same cadence, intonations, everything else. Jehovah's Witnesses are like, take that and then amplify it 5 times on steroids. It's creepy. The only one who semi-breaks from it is Stephen Lett because of how he talks to you like you're a 4-year-old. That was very straightforward. It was exactly what I expected. It's basically like, yeah, basically you should expect to be abused. You should embrace abusing people. But of course, they're not going to ever admit or say in those words or use such words as, yes, we abuse people. We encourage abuse. Because they lose even more lawsuits. They get more lawsuits. Because they'd be basically, it would be perjury. They'd be committing perjury because they'd be perjuring themselves, admitting, no, actually, yeah, we are lying through our teeth and we do encourage this. So of course they're not going to use that because it makes them look bad. But that's exactly what they're saying without using the word abuse or abusing. That's exactly what they're saying to do. They're encouraging is, yes, you need to be willing and happy to abuse your loved ones and your people. And Jehovah encourages it. He abuses people because he loves you. And like Lloyd said, that is exactly what a sociopath, and even more so a psychopath, would reason. They would absolutely try to twist your brain and mind into believing this complete fabrication and lie, something that's the total polar opposite of reality, which is that somehow that can contain love or is love. Know this, that is the opposite of love. There is nothing existent of anything genuine love in that. There's no love. You can't abuse somebody if you love them. That's not how that works. So no, that's a lie. I actually recorded a video a while. It's a little more ranty than it is actually a proper video, but it's just like more of my personal feelings and take around religion as a whole, which I'm sure a lot of people probably don't want to hear that, or we get pissed by it. I have no idea. Who knows, honestly. I think one of the most, if not arguably the most dominant reason why I cannot stand religion as a whole, but especially Christianity, is the fact that in the Bible, it's nothing but contradiction. It's a book of contradiction. That is what I call the Bible, because that is what it is. It is nothing but endless contradictions. Everything's hypocritical and everything's contradictory throughout. That said, there probably is nothing bigger of a contradiction and hypocrisy within the Bible than the constant preaching of the two different, completely polar opposites versions of God and what he represents and who he is and how he operates, right? You have one side of things, which is the really vicious, spiteful, hateful, unforgiving, like relentlessly violent, just vicious, vindictive piece of shit God that just hates everything and wants pure power and control over all things. And in the moment something contradicts it, if the moment something questions it, if the moment something refuses to believe it or follow a direct order, all of a sudden, all those negatives come out. That's the dominant traits that they focus on. That's the Hellfire God, like Hellfire Baptists, right? As I consistently use that term. They use that all the time. The Doomsdayers, that's like the Jehovah's Witnesses and stuff. The God-fearing groups, that's them. They would literally rather choose for some fucked up, twisted, sick, dark reason to worship and to preach about and to teach about and to buy into and to grasp and cherry pick strictly the most intensely negative, violent traits, that version and depiction of God in the Bible, and throw out the other one for some royally fucked up reasons I can't begin to imagine or understand. Like, I know the founders of the religions. Oh, of course, we all know exactly why they chose that one, and to emphasize that one and try to basically downplay that other aspect and the other way of the other depictions of God in the Bible, because it meant power and control. It meant you had and would guarantee yourself automatic power and control over people, their lives, their choices, their beliefs, their minds, everything, their direction of life. That's why the founders of these religions did that. And that's why the leaders continue to emphasize, hyper-emphasize even, so excessively emphasize this God-fear complex. But you have the exact polar opposite depiction of God, equal amounts throughout the Bible as well. Sometimes literally back to back. The opposite one is the positive one. It's the, you are made in his image, you are his flesh and blood. He made you, you are his children, right? We are, right? We are made in his image, we are his children. It wasn't our fault. It was supposedly some random two people, Adam and Eve, that were supposed to be perfect, that then got convinced by supposedly Satan via a snake in a fucking apple tree. What a stupid fucking parable. But anyway, that. and convince them to eat the forbidden fruit, which is supposedly a fucking apple. And so, wabam. Now all of us are sinners, or imperfect, evil people, because how dare we, be byproducts of these sinful people who just were so easily manipulated. Which means that, by the way, they weren't perfect. Whoops. But let's sweep that under the rug and pretend that never happened. So, that said, yes. So for that reason, that's why. But this brings you to the third piece for him, which is that this depiction of God is also he's a wholly understanding and forgiving God, because he understands that it's not our fault that we're imperfect or that we have problems or whatever else. So he understands that we make mistakes. So he understands this, and therefore he automatically has forgiven us before we're even created. He forgives us, right? Because he's an understanding, forgiving, loving, compassionate, caring, loving father and individual, right? He made us, supposedly. So there's that other depiction. But do you notice how incredibly oppositional they are? They are completely polar opposites. And what is that reflective of? Human beings. Meaning pagan. He's basically, the Bible literally confirms, oh, by the way, he's that pagan demigod. He is literally a human being. He's literally half-half. It's like looking in a fucking mirror. If you put a mirror in front of the whole of human beings, the species and humanity and all of our history, it's literally reflective of us as a species collectively throughout our entire existence, from the start to whenever we inevitably run ourselves into extinction, which I cannot wait for, admittedly. Different story, different day. It's literally reflective of human beings. So, in a way, that could actually even bring you into another topic, diverge, and then start talking about how all the different stories from Jesus Christ and the things he supposedly did, and supposedly can confirm, which I don't really believe, but maybe it was true, is stuff that we consider to be impossible, but he supposedly did it. And if you really listen to what he says, well, guess what? That's basically reflective of monks. There are literally people, like those Tibetan monks, who can literally levitate. They meditate, it's not really the right term, but meditate so hard that it's so in depth, they're so in tune with themselves, their higher selves, their energy, their vibration, the earth's, that they can literally, they don't think about it. They don't try to. It was never intended. They just do. They literally levitate. There's been photographs, there's been literally videos of it. Like, they know for a fact this happens, which is incredible. So it proves you can literally levitate. There's people who, of course, are able to literally move shit. I think that's telekinetics, right? When you can literally move things or break things. People can literally, it's been, again, recorded and pictures of, people literally know it's true. There are certain people who have figured out how to manipulate energy well enough that they can literally focus on something and bend it, warp it, like a metal spoon, a piece of silverware, or move a fucking coffee mug that's full of coffee, or, make it explode and break. Like they have, or throw it, literally levitate it and then throw it. Like, it's not a science fiction thing. And we, of course, have a number of examples. It's very intensely rare, but there is proven examples that this is something that can happen. And if Jesus supposedly walked on water and he could do all this other stuff that, I can't remember all the different things he supposedly did that seem impossible. And then how you tie that into what we just went into it from is, if that's reflective more of human nature, how they depict God in this contradictory state, what does that link to? How do they link together and what do they form? What picture does that paint? We are gods, right? That's something that you hear off and on depending on what spiritual groups or spiritual leaders you hear these days. And again, this is non-religious spiritualism. It's energy, it's quantum, it's ethereal, etheric, what is the word? Existential. And so you could argue that that's what it's really saying, and what the Bible's really all about, and what Jesus is conveying is that God in the concept that people believe in religion doesn't really exist because it was actually a mistake, like a mistaken or misunderstanding, I guess is the right word. It was a grave misunderstanding by the collective of people. Jesus, and thus the Bible, subsequently, was not actually referring to some deity. Rather, it was explaining to us that about us, about ourselves and each other, of like, this is like a guide for humanity and for people to be able to understand, like, you are capable of literally anything. Not only if you believe it, but if you can get into tune with the right vibrations and energy within yourself and be able to radiate that out into the world and thus attract, like attracts like, right? And be able to attract that back. You see how that works. So you could make that argument that that's really what it's all about, is he's actually trying to convey and teach to people that you've lost your way, but you can easily find it again if you just kind of follow these lessons and steps. But everybody had to go twist it, contort it, manipulate it, alter it, and misunderstand it, and then mistranslate it endlessly throughout history, and here we are today. And the human ego is a domineering son of a bitch. So, of course, naturally, the negatives of humanity, which is the ego, is going to be dominating throughout our history, and it's proven throughout history. It fell on deaf ears, if you will. Because, of course, naturally, the initial people who misunderstood it were actually intentionally cherry-picking and misunderstanding things, because it misconveying things, misconstruing it, because it wasn't, they didn't actually care what the real story was. They only cared to see what they wanted to in it, which is the benefit of their ego, which is, this could be used and taken in such a way, and these pieces can be picked out in such a way and put together to paint a picture that gives me more power and control over more people. And that's how you got religion. Modern religion, specifically. The big three. Different story, different day. But it's just a thought I had. And so I figured it's best, being with my brain and how it works, I need to get this off my chest and out, rather than withholding myself, because then I'll probably forget pieces, or I won't be able to convey it in any real detail, or not be able to convey it ever again. So it's just an observation and a potentiality that's what could really be being conveyed, which would be super interesting, because technically that's pagan. But now, that means I am going to end this video here and not go into these other ones. I will do that in the next video. So make sure, if you want to see more of this, to subscribe to my channel. I'll also, of course, be having an occasional, like, urbanism/transit-oriented video, because, again, this is still my space, my channel, and I still want to be able to talk about and do the things that I enjoy most and share with the world. I highly recommend you subscribe if you want to hear and see more, and also want to join these discussions in the comments below, which, by the way, feel free to leave it. Would you stop? I'm being sneak attacked by my stomach. You know, it must be all my satanic mumblings right here, rants. I mean, clearly it's Satan as demons. Let's face it, I've been a very bad individual. I'm very toxic to spirituality, and it's proof. So make sure you use that in your next convention. I'm clearly going to be dead in 3 years. Poisoning your minds with lies and evil satanic ramblings. And I lost track of what I was saying. Right, yeah. Feel free to leave a comment in the video description. That doesn't work. In the comments down below, to join the conversation, to start a conversation, have a nice little discussion or back and forth, or just state your experience or your thoughts or whatever else. I would love to be able to hear what you think, and know in the comments below. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in whatever the hell my next video might be. Until then, stay safe out there, or not, your choice. And I'm gonna go get hit by a truck. If you've been around the last few, like, month, that's became my theme, apparently. I apparently just really want to be hit by a fucking truck at 50+ miles an hour and knocked down off of a cliff, because my brain is inexplicably bizarre. See you around.